Hi, so it's been a long time. I've been trying to readjust to the lack of free time. I managed to keep up with my reading, but I think like some part of me still wishes that I could read 20 books a month. But realistically speaking, that's no longer possible. If I can read one book a week, then I think that's pretty good already. I realize like the older that I get, the more sacrifices I need to make. I am still like figuring out what to do about it. I think the good thing is that right now I'm in a position where I can make choices. I need to think about what I want to do with my time, and I need to think about whether or not the sacrifices that I am making are worth it. Because I look at what other people have sacrificed and I feel like it's not worth it for them, but they are just too afraid of putting themselves in a new situation, so they end up stuck. One thing I can't accept is being stuck. So I did read quite a lot of books between the last video and this one, but I want to focus on maybe like about three books. I think I'll talk about Butter by Asako Yuzuki, followed by Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati. The last book that I'll talk about is The Song of the Huntress by Lucy Holland. Starting with Butter by Asako Yuzuki, I don't have a physical copy because I actually received an ARC via email. There was this marketer for Fourth Estate Books, which is the publisher. She emailed me asking if I wanted an ARC and if I wanted to just click the link. So I clicked the link. It sounds like a scam in hindsight, but I think when it comes to books, I don't have that vigilance. So it's very easy to scam me if you tell me that I can read a book for free. I clicked the link and I did get the book for free. This was about a couple of weeks before the official publication date, so I read it sometime in February. Since the book came out, there has been a lot of publicity for it. There is like a Kinokuniya stand. People have been posting about it. There was even like a book launch held at the book bar at Duxton Road, which I attended. Even though there was a video session with the translator Polly Barton, who you might remember also translated There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job. Because that book launch was the time when they were selling the book for the first time, a lot of people didn't get to read the book before they attended the session. So the talk with the translator ended up being quite superficial, on a shallow level. She couldn't really go in depth into the characters because there was this like fixation on not having spoilers, which I don't understand. I feel like as a reader, me personally, if this is an interesting book and you give me like one spoiler, two spoilers, what it would do is actually whet my appetite. It would make me want to find out more. In any case, this book is so complex and has so many layers that even if you were to give 3-5 spoilers, you are not spoiling anything. There is so much in this book that a few spoilers would not damage the reading experience. That's how I feel lah. The publicity surrounding this book focuses a lot on one of the main characters in this book. There are three main characters. One is called Rika. She is a journalist. Reiko, her best friend, the killer, called Manako Kaji. A little bit of background. Rika, she is a workaholic. She is trying to make it as a girl boss in a male-dominated environment. She has like a boyfriend, but he is also a workaholic, so their relationship is 100% not serious at all. In fact, you can even hardly call it a relationship, I feel, because there is like hardly any communication, hardly any time spent. It seems like they were just together for convenience. There is Reiko, who gave up her job that she was very good at to marry a man, settle down, try to conceive. The keyword here is trying. Then there is Manako Kaji, who was arrested on the charge that she supposedly murdered her ex-lovers, all of which were like old rich men who gave her a lot of money. And the reason why she was such a sensation is that she is not conventionally beautiful because she is fat. If you read works by women, you can see that there is a prevailing like fat phobia that no matter how much people talk about it, is still there, because it just seems rather embedded in society right now. To be fat or to allow yourself to become fat in a society like that is actually like an act of resistance. It's saying that you are rejecting the prevailing beauty standards and you are prioritizing your own happiness, right? You don't care whether or not other people find you beautiful. You care about satisfying your own desires and satisfying your own appetite. Kaji as a character already is quite radical to begin with. Second of all, her approach towards men also sets her apart, because usually the expected thing of a woman is that you would seek to settle down, comfort in men. However, she is is very openly using other men for money. So her approach towards love and relationships is very cold in the sense that it is not what is expected of a woman. She doesn't attach sentimentality or like nostalgia towards her ex-lovers. Right now, the issue is, can she be held responsible for indirectly causing the deaths if they died because they were drawn into a relationship and then abandoned by her? The answer in the book seems to lean towards yes, because she is deliberately toying with their feelings and deliberately triggering their spiral into depression, which then causes them to not take care of themselves and die. But at the same time, there is this idea that it is a woman's job to take care of a man. It is a woman's job to make sure that he doesn't starve himself to death, that he eats healthy meals, that someone is there to clean his house. So I think this book does like interrogate that belief. Why is it that these men, these grown men, these grandfather age men, they still cannot take care of themselves? And if the woman that takes care of them stops taking care of them and they die, why is it her fault? So Rika is trying to get an exclusive interview with Kaji because she thinks that this will catapult her writing career. However, Kaji is very notoriously contemptuous of journalists because she thinks that all of them just want to make use of her and twist her story. So Rika, when she visits her friends Reiko's house, Reiko is like a fantastic cook. She's by all standards like the perfect housewife, right? She's beautiful, she's thin, she dresses fashionably. On top of that, she cooks beautifully. That's what like sort of sets her up as the feminine ideal at the start of the novel. It is Reiko actually who suggested to Rika that she asked Kaji for one of the recipes, because the way into a food lover's heart is by asking them for a recipe. They won't be able to resist sharing the recipe because they're just so passionate about food. So Rika tries it and it actually works, and she manages to set up like a working relationship with Kaji where she gets Kaji to agree to an interview. What Kaji gets out of it is that she gets to toy with Rika, gets to tell Rika to run to this place and eat that, run to that place and eat that. And one of the things that she introduces into Rika's diet is butter, which is the title of the book. There are some recipes in this book that made me really hungry. I actually did go and try one of the recipes, which is the butter with soy sauce and rice recipe. And you know what? It actually is really, really delicious, but I had to stop because I understood that if I was eating butter with every bite, I was going to gain weight so fast. I think I've already gained enough weight. But you know, sometimes I wonder if it's like my internalized misogyny and fat phobia that makes me worried about what I am eating. You know, sometimes I think like I am surrounded by people like that, so it's very hard to not be affected by what they say. Even if I do what I want, I am like constantly aware of the fact that other people might think me a glutton with no self-control in their hearts. I'm trying hard not to like care about what other people think in their hearts, because that's between them and God, right? But at the same time, it's like when you grow up, especially in the 2000s, absorbing so much ideology that glorifies like eating disorders or disordered eating. Things like, if you're hungry, just go and drink water. You're actually not hungry, you're thirsty. It's like ultimate gaslighting. But I grew up listening to all that, and I also grew up reading a lot of like women's magazines because they were lying around the house. I have a long way to go to unlearn all these beliefs that only seek to control women, control how they live. I'm working on it. That's a detour. Coming back to the story, Rika, she starts to fall under Kaji's spell. The more she eats the food that Kaji tells her to eat, the more she realizes that she has been restricted her whole life, and that she has been trying to keep like a trim figure because it makes her more professionally respected and it makes her boyfriend like her more. But then when she gains a little bit of weight, just a little bit of weight, and people start commenting on her appearance, it makes her start to think like, why are people like that? And she starts to side with Kaji. So Kaji now has a lot of control over Rika. Unbeknownst to them, behind the scenes, Reiko is upset about this because Reiko loves Rika and she wants to prevent Kaji from stealing Rika away from her. Reiko and Kaji were actually in competition for Rika, but secretly, like, Rika didn't know. Before I just tell you the rest of the story, which is very, very long and a lot of things happen, so I didn't even really spoil you, to be honest. The important thing that popped out to me was the relationship between the two friends, because even though she has a husband, she has a dream of having children with this husband someday. Multiple times throughout the text, she mentioned that Rika is the most important person to her. Like, she loves Rika the most in this world, and that when they were in school together, Rika was like a prince figure to her. So there is this homoeroticism, but I'm not even sure if I can call it eroticism because there is no like arrows in it, you know? They are not erotically attracted to each other, but I would say that romantically or even like on a deeper level that cannot be dismissed as a physical attraction, they love each other more than they have loved the men in their lives. This idea of a prince, right? I feel like I'm telling on myself, but when I was younger, I read a lot of girls love manga. I also read a lot of yuri manga. In fact, I just read a lot of manga, so I read the whole spectrum of manga. One thing I realized about these kind of like girls love or yuri manga is often they are set in a Catholic school far away on a mountain, far away from the society of men. All the teachers in this school are women also. There's also a neighboring competing girls' school. So we're talking about an all-female environment. But in yuri manga, within this all-girls environment, the girls will always end up getting into relationships with each other, and there will always be like this butch, I guess you can call it butch, but actually they're still quite femme, but you know what, it's up to them, right? This like butch character who is older, has many admirers, and who will usually end up getting involved with the protagonist. This prince character usually has short hair, academically very good, very sporty. All these masculine ideals, but transposed onto the female body, that of like a girl. For these prince characters, one thing that makes them princely is that they have to have, I guess, good bone structure, but they also need to be tall and skinny, because that is also the ideal for men. For Reiko, she saw Rika as her prince, which then means that she is the princess. I would say that the reason why Rika and Reiko prioritize each other so is because their relationship is not problematic, whereas their relationship with men have always been fraught with violence, with tension, like abusive fathers, controlling fathers, boyfriends with anger issues, whereas for them, they are each other's safe harbors. It seems like every hetero relationship in this book failed, which seems to me to be like a commentary on how men and women simply are unable to relate with each other anymore. I'm not sure if that is what the author's intention is, but that was what I understood the author's intention to be. Rika ends up breaking up with her boyfriend, and for Reiko, she started like interrogating why is it that she wanted so badly to have children. Is that even the right step for her, or is it that she was just so desperate to do what society expected of her? And Rika's mother was also like a victim of grooming. Like, she was a university student. She got into a relationship with her professor. Maybe last time, right, it's not such a big deal. I'm thinking of things like Cardcaptor or Sailor Moon, where that kind of age gap is acceptable. But you know, this age gap is like very big. It's not even say like a 15-year-old with a 19-year-old. We're talking about like a 18-year-old with like a 30-year-old, you know? The age gap is very big. And because Rika's mother, she was naive and she was innocent and she didn't know what she was getting herself into, she ended up suffering for it. This novel is actually one about self-care, I would say, and not self-care in that you go and buy nice things for yourself and make yourself happy temporarily, but self-care in that you need to listen to your own body, meet your own needs. If you're hungry, go and eat. If you are lonely, find community. Take care of yourself, and in doing so, you can also then take care of others. The end of this book prioritizes this idea of friendship and community over romantic relationships. So the basis then of happiness, people being content with their lives, is actually not to put all their hopes and dreams on this one person who they believe will give them their happily ever after. Invest care in others, in a number of others, in a safe space where everyone contributes. When the burden of care is distributed, it's easier for everybody. That's what I understood from the book. That is my review of Butter by Asako Yuzuki. Okay, next, following the theme of feminine rage or unconventional women, I'm going to talk about Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati. This is a retelling. I think anybody who has read a lot of like Greek retellings, you would already know what her story is. Her story was mentioned in Jennifer Saint's Electra, also one of Natalie Haynes' books. But I have not seen a retelling focusing just on her, and this is the first one that I've read. I felt that it was very, very well done. Because everyone already knows how it's going to end. This book didn't focus on that. That portion came much later on, whereas most of the book focused on giving her a background, childhood, from the moment she is born, what kind of life did she have growing up in Sparta. The focus was on her relationship with her siblings, her sister, her brothers, how much they loved each other, how much they protected each other, her first husband, how did her first husband die, how did her first son die, and how did she end up married to her horrible man of a husband. You know, the story of Clytemnestra is one about revenge. It's about a woman who has a lot of anger but is unable to act on it. So a woman who bides her time, a woman who waits for the right time to strike. Only until recently, Clytemnestra has been like a villainous sort of character, because a woman fighting back, a woman killing her husband by backstabbing him, not even in honorable duel, but by killing him in the bath, that kind of action doesn't sit well with a lot of people, especially with people who believe that a woman's place is inferior to a man's. A lot of recent literature, fictional literature, which seeks to retell the story, they focus a lot on her motivations. When her husband brought back another woman, it's like, am I supposed to just accept my husband's infidelity? On the other hand, when she has a lover, it's almost as if that she offended the gods themselves. So there's this very clear double standard, which I'm sure existed in the past, and back then nobody questioned it, and that's why when a woman decides to behave like a man, she gets punished for it. But retellings nowadays rehabilitate that notion. They rehabilitate these women characters to show that through a modern lens, which is okay because we are modern people, we should be looking at things through a modern lens. If a woman wants to take revenge, it is not legally correct, but it is definitely understandable. She can still qualify as a sympathetic character. So I think that this retelling was very good. It was very substantial. It's very well written. Specifically, I think that the large focus on her childhood, on her first husband, how she felt about her children, this never-ending grief that she endures even after having other children, especially after her new husband kills her daughter. The way these events were stacked up one by one on top of each other convinces the reader that perhaps murdering her husband after all this that he has done is okay. I'm not saying I think it's okay, but I'm saying that in this book, it is a suitable punishment. It's karmic. It is justified. For most of the book, she is strong, but she's still helpless. She is constantly fighting to maintain her position as queen. She is constantly struggling to keep her anger and her grief at bay. Sometimes murder is okay. You know, if you think about how many people her husband has killed, 3 of her loved ones, and she killed just one, which is him. It's not even exactly an eye for an eye. Okay, moving on to the last book that I want to talk about. It's The Song of the Huntress by Lucy Holland. I don't have a physical copy. I will procure one soon when I get a chance to go to Kinokuniya, I guess. I'll take a look and see whether it's here already. Lucy Holland is an author who I've been like following quite assiduously ever since she wrote this. Sister Song. Yeah, I love Sister Song. I recommend this book to everybody. Every time somebody asks me what they should read, I'll be like, go and read Sister Song. I keep selling this book to people. When they read it, they also fall in love with it. Obviously, I will always stand by my opinions, but I think that objectively, this is a really good book. It is also this niche area of medieval England before the Christians took over. So we're talking about things like pagan beliefs, about worshipping the land, the Dark Ages. In the retelling business, right, this part of history is not really touched upon. So Lucy Holland, she has a monopoly on it right now. In Song of the Huntress, it is like a continuation, but set several generations later. So like a few hundred years later. I would say that it's not exactly a sequel, and it can function very well as a standalone. The Huntress in this title is actually Herla. She's a Lord of the Hunt. Traditionally, the Lord of the Hunt is a like male-coded sort of character. However, in this retelling, the author made her a woman. So she is a huntress. She has a band of other huntresses, and the reason why the wild hunt exists is because of a god who was tired of his duties and he wanted to just slack off and give it to someone else. So he tricked this human warrior called Herla, and he tricked her into receiving his duties. So she got power, but she's also enslaved by him. She's cursed to go around killing indiscriminately every month and then carrying those souls that she slaughtered with her. It's a burden. Because first of all, her job is not to process these souls and then send them to heaven. She can't do that because it is not her job. What she does then is that she holds all these souls inside her, all their torments, all their grief, everything becomes a problem. it weighs her down. Hela is a lesbian. She was the lover of the queen that she served back when she was still a human being. The only reason why she actually got tricked was because she was looking for a way to help her queen save her land. In this current lifetime, she falls in love with the current queen. So you can kind of tell that she has a type. This queen, her problem is that her husband is actually like an asexual character. Her sister-in-law is also an asexual character. This is addressed quite directly in the book. You can infer that they are ace, but obviously because of the time period, the word ace is never used. And because the king is ace, he is unable to enthusiastically participate in like the nuptial duties, and that's why the queen, she has not been conceiving successfully, which weakens her position in the court. She also thinks that her husband doesn't love her. But one thing that this book does a good job of, I think, is making it clear that he does love her. The ace representation is clear. He loves her very much. She's the only woman that he has ever loved. He would die for her, right? He would fight for her. He would do anything for her. But for some reason, he just cannot bring himself to want to have sex. But the thing is, he never told her. So she thought that he didn't like her, or she thought that he had another woman somewhere. They just don't communicate with each other. And then Hela shows up in the disguise of a human being, and so now it becomes like a weird love triangle between the king, the queen, and this immortal warrior woman. So one thing that the Song of the Huntress has in common with its predecessor sister song is this background conflict between the Britons with their own original religion, which gives them power over the land. Like they can earth bend, they can water bend, that kind of thing, versus the Anglo-Saxons and their priests who are trying to wipe out the old religion and replace it with their Christian religion. And the way they go about it is they are quite dogmatic about it. I mean, you need to remember that it's close to the era where the Crusades happened. The Christian priests and the religious leaders, they have this warped idea that it is okay to go and kill people who don't believe in our God, and then to like force the people in the area to worship their God, force them to attend church every Sunday, force them to give up their pagan beliefs. There is a lot of bigotry in this book, as within Sister Song. I enjoyed this aspect of both books because nowadays it's very easy to like forget the history of religions because we just take them for granted. There's been a lot of whitewashing of it to make it seem like, oh, this is a peaceful religion, we just hold hands and we sing Kumbaya. But if you care enough to go and look up the history of it, you will see that sometimes people did a lot of very horrific and very violent things in the name of this religion. And I think if you are trying to remove the history or you're trying to forget, what will happen then is that it will repeat itself. This portrayal of the medieval Christian priest as malicious and evil and hypocritical, self-serving characters, I do think that there is some relevance to the modern era. Just because people are religious leaders doesn't mean that they are good or that they are free of corruption. One thing that I think the author Lucy Holland does a very good job of is showing just how pervasive and how damaging this kind of bigotry can be back then and also right now. It takes balls to write something like this. I think that people, they always want to believe that their religion is like the oldest one, the most valid one, and the rest are misguided. The only reason why, even in Singapore right now, there is a sizable proportion of people who have adopted this religion is because of priests who have had used their influence over military powers, kill off people who don't want to convert, make deals with the government to build churches in the area in exchange for money. This imported religion didn't just spring up overnight. It came from centuries of bloodshed, from violence, from things that I'm sure people don't want to think about or confront. These are the 3 books that I think deal with the theme of feminine rage. I've been reading a lot of books featuring sapphic characters because I think that they are more interesting and very underrepresented. So one book that is a little bit weird and will make you feel a bit uncomfortable because of the body horror is Chlorine by Jade Song. Gory, a lot of sex inside. Also, I need to give you a warning that there is like sexual assault. Another book that I felt was sapphic, but I'm not sure if you can gender an AI running a house like that. Rose House by Arkady Martine. I will read anything by Arkady Martine. This is a novella that she wrote. I thought that there was a very interesting relationship between the detective and the house, which I feel reads as feminine coded. After all, like, what is a house? Can you think of a house as being a masculine space? I think like houses in general are usually associated with feminine spaces, right? Caverns that contain, that provide, that shelter. All of these like associations, you won't really like associate them with the masculine. But then at the same time, this house of secrets, this house that has a mind of its own, this house that has very twisty passageways, very twisty trains of logic, definitely feminine. So I would classify this as a sapphic read. Other things that I've been reading, I finished the series for とつくにの少女 by Nagabe. This is the Japanese edition. I have a few of these. I stopped a while back because I was at the latest book, but then the series has completed, so I went to read the books that I missed out on. I really liked it. I think it's very good. Until now, I still can't figure out, so what exactly is the curse and what exactly is this difference between an insider and an outsider? Yeah, oh yeah, the English title is called The Girl from the Other Side. In this book, like in Sister Song or Song of the Huntress, there is also this treatment of like religious themes. There is also a fanatical religion that has no qualms lying to the people, hoarding knowledge to themselves so they can manipulate the masses, killing entire villages in the name of their god. So another manga series that I have been rereading is Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. I first started reading this book very long ago, before COVID. My life is split into before COVID and after COVID, but before COVID. And then I stopped reading, I remember around like volume 7 or 8 or 9. A lot of time has passed since. I don't remember like the small details. I remember the major plot lines, but I don't remember the small details anymore. I do keep up with the artist herself on Twitter. I decided to just reread it. It's very, very good. If the series ever ends, I will do a review of the whole series. Until then, I'm just enjoying the art. Well, that's all for today. I think for me, making sure that I keep reading is like a personal goal that is very important to me. I don't want to become lazy and use exhaustion as an excuse to not improve myself. So I don't know when the next time I'll be able to do a booktube video again will be. In June? We'll see how it goes. Until then, I'm going to continue writing my book reviews on my Instagram and on Substack for the longer reviews. I think to me like it's quite important that I keep up with what I started. Maintaining a hobby is the hard thing, right? The hobby itself is not hard. It's the maintaining and being consistent and making sure you do it every day. That's the thing that's hard. And so that's all for today. Thanks for watching and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.